Hi everyone, my name is Sha and welcome to A Brown Touch. Today I'm here to talk to you about what you should do before you actually quit your job. So I'm not here to encourage you to quit your job. Rather, I'm here to help you make an informed decision that's based off of facts instead of pure emotion. So let's jump straight into this and I'm going to give you my 4 quick tips. So the first tip that I have for you today is for you to ask yourself, are you making the decision to leave or are you unhappy with your job because of a permanent issue or a temporary issue that's happening in your job? We all know that change is hard for us all because you got to think about adapting, and change is very scary. So before you jump ship, before change actually happens, ask yourself, am I able to withstand this change? And is the change actually a good idea? A lot of us are so quick to make a hasty decision before actually seeing a process through. So stop yourself and say, hey, is this really a bad idea? Is this going to be forever? Or is this a right now? If it's a right now situation and it's going to pass with just a couple of months of work and reconfiguration of the organization, then I would say to you, don't just jump and leave. Wait for the process to see its way through, and once it's finished, then you can make the decision on whether or not this is the time for you to go or not. So that's tip number 1. Make sure you ask yourself, am I unhappy with my job because of a permanent issue or a temporary issue? And if it's temporary, ride that jammy out until it has subsided and then make your decision on whether you want to stay with the organization or not. So moving right along, tip number 2. Tip number 2 is create a list of pros and cons for why you like the organization and the position in which you're in. When you're in your mind and you're thinking about pros and cons, it's great, but you can't really visualize it and you can't really track it. So you want to get it on a piece of paper and write it out. And then compare which list was longer, your pros or your cons, right? I would hope that your pros outweigh your cons, but you want to make sure that you have the ability to see it and not just have it in your mind, because we're busy. We got a lot going on up there. But when you're able to bring it out and write it out, you may come up with some other things that you never even thought about, or you may see that, you know what, this actually is a good gig and I shouldn't leave it because I found out while I was writing my pros and my cons that I really do like the amount of money that I make. I really do like the working atmosphere. I really do like the fact that I have 2 weeks paid vacation, which a lot of organizations nowadays, for whatever reason, they're not offering it, right? So you want to be able to write all of that down. Or you may realize when you're making your list that there's a lot of cons, which is, I don't know, they don't give you snacks. You want to spend at least an hour thinking this through. This should not be a 5-minute exercise because you're not going to be true to yourself and you're not going to get the real answer that you're looking for on whether or not you should give this organization another chance and probably work with your manager to make the working environment a little bit better for you, or you should start looking for an additional or different employment opportunity. So definitely good idea for you to do your pros and cons. Takes me to point number 3. Point number 3 is something that I said in my last video, but I see that it's coming up again. You want to make sure that you are doing your research. Before you jump ship from any organization, make sure that you're going on the internet and you're figuring out what's out there. So you want to find out if the amount of money that you're being paid, if that's actually an industry standard. You want to know if you meet the educational level or the work experience level. It just depends. So you want to make sure that you spend some time doing your research, because then you may find out, at this job, I only have a high school diploma and I'm getting paid this amount of money. However, I'm noticing that when I'm doing my research, now they're asking for everyone for a college degree, which is required for the same type of money. I may want to stay here and work on this work environment and possibly think about returning to school so that later on when I leave, I'm able to meet the requirement, right? Another part to doing your research is, and I was talking to my husband about this video and he gave me a great idea. And I said, babe, absolutely right. You should do research within your same organization. Maybe you are ready for change, but the change doesn't necessarily mean that you need to leave the organization. It may just mean that you need a new position within your current organization. Maybe you should work with your manager and come up with a professional development path that's specifically made for you. And if you do that, then that can help you get the experience and the education and the knowledge that you need so that you can move up in the organization. So maybe it's not leaving the organization, rather it's staying with the organization and building your knowledge so that you can grow within the organization. Another thing that you can do in regards to research is, have you been at work and you've noticed that things aren't running smoothly? And that's because you've identified a gap. You notice that finance is not talking to procurement. And you could be the person who's in the middle saying, hey, finance and procurement, before we have all of these issues, there needs to be, obviously I don't work in finance, there needs to be someone in the middle who helps us out with identifying when something needs to go to procurement. If you identify a gap, take that to your management and say, hey, I really think that this is something that we need because of this, that, and the other. And make sure that when you go to your employer that you have the facts that says why this particular position is needed, as well as take a stab at writing the job description. You never know. You can create your new path in the same organization, and the feeling of wanting to leave goes away, gone. So try it. Be innovative. Every employer loves an innovative mind. So don't hold back. If you have a suggestion, you have a great thought, try it out. So again, you want to do your research. So doing research is making sure that you meet industry standards, making sure that you're identifying gaps within the organization and seeing if you could create a position for yourself, as well as talking with your supervisor and seeing if they can put you on a professional development path so that you can, enhance your knowledge and grow within the organization. So many great things that you can do with that particular do your research. We made it to number 4. And I'm really excited that I made it to number 4 because it didn't take me 17 million takes to get here, unlike my first video. But anyway, so this particular tip is, to me, the most important one. If you went through all of my tips and you say, it's time for me to go, I'm leaving, then you need to keep that to yourself. Don't tell nobody. Everybody doesn't need to know that you're ready to leave the organization. Why? Because if you tell Jane or Joe, Kiki and them, that you're ready to go, guess what? Now people start, and you don't want a rumor to be going around that you're unhappy and that you're leaving, because your supervisor can now find out. And you don't want your supervisor to find out that you're trying to leave, because what happens if you start looking for employment and nobody's calling you back? Then what? Now everybody knows that you're looking for this job and that you're so unhappy, and you don't leave. On top of that, you don't want to spoil relationships that you've had. So people who were once really happy with your work, happy with you, really thought that you were for the organization, now no longer likes you, or I wouldn't want to say they don't like you. That's not the right word, but you can tell that the relationship has shifted, because now they know that you're trying to leave the organization. So if you are ready to leave, make sure that you make that a private situation that you keep to yourself. If you want to talk to anybody about it, call your best friend, call your husband, call your wife. Just call people who are closest to you that don't work with you, and have them help you through the process. Let them be your ear. But when you say it to someone in the organization, you put yourself in harm's way for that news to get around, and it may go around prematurely, because you can also decide to change your mind because life happened and you no longer can leave because of a situation. So again, don't tell anyone that you are leaving the organization until it's time. So that's all I have for you today. I really hope that you liked all of my 4 tips. So I'm going to go through them really quickly again for you. So the first one is, ask yourself, are you unhappy with the organization that you're in because of a temporary issue or a permanent issue? Number two is you want to create a list of pros and cons and weigh them. Number 3 is you want to do your research and make sure that you understand what the industry is asking for and that you meet requirements and all the other things that you can think about in regards to research. And then number 4, if you do plan on leaving, whichever way you go, because you may decide today that you want to go and tomorrow you don't, you want to keep that to yourself and do not share that information with anybody at your organization. If you have to tell someone, speak to those who are closest to you. I hope that you liked my video. I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and leave me a message giving me ideas for topics for next week. Bye.